Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
It is our basic human right to be fucked up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
Fuck that. Okay. Hello, occultists. Welcome to Occultae Veritatis. I am Richard Bigley, and as a result of a surge in the Omicron variant going through Saskatchewan, we are recording remotely by choice. And so recording with me today, I have
Leon Filger.
Ood Gallifrey.
The soundboard demon.
Okay, awesome. And me. And should I spoil who I am now, or should I
not spoil who you are? Pitch your stuff, man.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I'm Scott. I've been on this before. I am what am I? I'm a writer. You probably read my stuff in the Beaverton, Canadian Dimension. I got something published in Passage recently. I have a YouTube channel called Pinko Punko. And I am terminally online on Twitter at UCottScott.
Yeah, and I think Beaverton's like the most accurate newspaper in Canada, I believe, right?
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I actually talked to my editor, and if you saw that post where they broke satire to be like, hey, can we like raise money for this charity that helps unhoused people get food? That was my doing. I showed them that was going on, and we kind of pushed that in Ottawa. It's been great. That's good.
Yeah, I used to work in a drop-in center for unhoused people, and the food desperation these days is pretty dire. But yeah, Scott Pinkerton, check out his stuff.
And we do not have Sage with us today.
He's trapped up north, I think.
Trapped up north. Yeah, probably at work or something. So today's episode, we're going to discuss left-handed people. But before we begin, let's talk about our poisons.
So, what's your poison?
For my poison, because I'm a teetotaler, or a coffee totaler in this case, I've managed to source some Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee, which is my favorite variety of coffee, and I found it in compostable K-cups that fit in my Keurig, and I've made myself a cup of it, but I can't fucking taste it because I'm COVID positive and I have no sense of taste or smell, so it just tastes like bitter, warm liquid. I jumped the gun on laughing about that. I'm sorry, I didn't. That's awful. Yeah, it's a really good coffee that I can't taste, and I have no idea when I'm going to be able to taste it again. So now I'm just going to go through my shittier coffees and maybe save this one for if I can ever taste again someday. Tea is quite revolting because it just tastes bitter, even though I usually like tea. And coffee, like I said, is just bitter, warm liquid. I am drinking a nice whiskey, Gooderham and Worts. My partner has a family that way back used to brew it. So every year for Christmas, they get a free bottle, and it's really good whiskey, but I haven't drank whiskey in a while. So now I'm kind of feeling it.
Hell yeah.
Good shit. I need to after the week that's been going on. For those who don't know, I'm in the area between Toronto and Ottawa. Won't be specific, but it's been great.
Does it have any hints of marshmallow or burnt cedar or any bullshit like that?
Not that I know of. It's kind of like a classic whiskey. They don't, at least the type that I have right now. It's just the bottle's so far away from me. It's very smoky though.
I thought you were talking about the protests. Any hints of burnt cedar? I was very confused.
I mean, we did have a member of parliament posting warheads and gasoline, you know?
For my beverage of choice in my basement, I've got a keg. So now I've got actual beer on tap that's, properly plumbed up with the CO2 tank and everything like you'd get at a bar. So I've got original 16 on draft, which is always fantastic. It always brings a smile to my face.
Yeah, how is it though? Like, I wonder if like the keg ever adds anything to it. I have the same thought about like that Moscow Mule drink in the copper cups. I wonder if it gets anything from being kegged.
Like the material that you serve it out of and that it's stored in certainly does affect the flavor of things. Like I drink a lot of Diet Coke, and if I drink Diet Coke out of a plastic bottle, it's like way worse than drinking Diet Coke out of a can. Same sort of thing with beer. You kind of get a little bit of that aluminum-y kind of thing to it. If it's out of a can, if it's out of a bottle, it's kind of similar, but it still doesn't quite compete with that, fresh right out of the tap, nice cold chilled beer kind of flavor,
If you like pour like a nice cold bottle or something into a glass, it's not even remotely the same as like from a keg.
Yeah, it's way better. I love it. And like Leon's parents came over last night, and we had a couple of rounds. It was fun.
Why wasn't I invited?
You got COVID though, but you're not contagious, or are you?
I'm not contagious. Like I no, it's been more than 10 days since the onset of symptoms. I'm fine. I was allowed to go back to work yesterday, but they kept me on public health leave until Wednesday. But yeah, I'm fucking fine. There's no problem. I'm still testing positive on the rapid tests, but I'm probably going to test positive on them for like 3 months. There's nothing I can do about it. And they've stopped doing PCR testing for healthcare workers now. So there's like no possible way for me to prove my negative status, even if the rapid tests are still coming up positive. So I might be totally fucked.
Wait, what?
Well, Saskatchewan is removing restrictions for like COVID regulations, like mask restrictions and vaccine passports to go to restaurants. And at the exact same time, they're ending testing, like ending public testing, which is a good way to hide like a spike in numbers, really.
Well, and the other thing about that is workers' compensation will only accept a PCR test if you figure that you got it as a result of a workplace exposure. With public testing gone, you're not able to get that test anymore, which means that good luck trying to prove it to workers' compensation if you're off work for any length of time and need to get paid for it. And I don't know, do private companies test symptomatic individuals? I'm not sure. Is that a thing that they do?
$250 if you want it done within the week.
Well, there you go. $250 to send your proof to workers' compensation, who may or may not cover your claim anyway.
Fun fact, there are some people in government who have family that work for these private companies and are going to be making a bunch of money soon. I'm sure it's a coincidence.
Well, it seems like the poison we're all drinking is this continuous fucking reality we live in.
Cheers.
Now you may be seated. Over here, you probably recognize this. These are the tools of my torture in primary and secondary school. So I am left-handed. I freely admit that. So I'd come into a classroom, sit down at my right-handed desk, open my right-handed binder, proceed to take notes with a pen, a ballpoint pen. And a little known fact, you probably weren't aware of the fact that pens were designed to be pulled and not pushed. And then anyone who's left-handed, which it appears there's maybe two of us, one of the things you recognize is the ink you were writing with, or the lead, if you had a pencil, ends up on the bottom of your hand. And finally, there's this torture device. Scissors. The bane of my kindergarten existence. They would end up upside down and stuck on my thumb. Almost cost me another year in kindergarten. So now let's turn to culture and see what culture says about right-handedness and left-handedness. We can turn to religion first. When Jesus ascended to heaven, did anyone know what side of God he sat on? The right side. And Satan, the fallen angel, had previously occupied the left side. We can also look to other religions, Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist. The left hand is unclean. Now, this probably just illustrates how old I am, but in third grade, 1967, or 63, I had a teacher, third grade teacher, who tied my left hand down on the desk so I couldn't use it to write. Because as she said, or pointed out to me, it was the devil's hand. So she was trying to force me to write with my right hand. Now, needless to say, there weren't a lot of apples on her desk, and my parents were very pleased about that, but it shows you how strong that bias could be, and that was only 1963. So we see the influence of culture. Certainly tools, as I pointed out, the desk or the scissors, and almost any power tool I should not get around because they're designed for right-handed people. And we also can't ignore training. I eat with my left hand, I write with my left hand, I do almost everything left-handed except for sports, which I do all right-handed. Why? Because my first coach, my father, was right-handed, and that's how he taught me. But then we can look at language and see how this plays out in language. If anyone knows French, do you know what the word for left is in French? Right, gauche, which when we use gauche here, what that means is tacky, tasteless, over the top. It's certainly not a positive impression. Now, let's see who went to Catholic school and had to take Latin like myself. Anyone know what the Latin word for left is? Very good, sinister. Again, not a very good label. But we can also see it played out in our common vernacular. So you guys have been really good. Now we're going to find out how many snowboarders we have here. Most snowboarders will snowboard with their left foot forward, their right foot back. But if you're turned around, which some are, such that your left is back and your front foot is your right foot, does anyone know what style that's called? Right. That's goofy style. Again, not snowboarder. Again, not very flattering. Now, again, this is kind of like a sing-along. You have to play along with me here. If you are skipped over, if you're not included, what are you? You're left out. If an idea comes from nowhere, you have no idea where that came from. It comes from left field. And if I am correct, I am right. Again, we see this kind of cultural influence that certainly favors the right side over the left side.
According to Frontiers in Psychology, 90% of people are right-hand dominant, which is more commonly known as being right-handed. But God has chosen a select 10% to be truly exceptional. The left-handed people. Ambidextrous people may try to claim a position in these statistics, but the fact is, like centrists in politics, they're centrist in handedness as well, so really nobody likes them.
Yeah, take that, ambidextrous people.
That's right. That's the official OV pod position on ambidextrous people. So there you go.
Been living too high on the hog for too long.
That's right. Both hands. Who needs that? So handedness is generally determined by the hand you write with. So like aside from handwriting, most people can kind of work with both hands, often without preference. So some people may write also with their left hand, but they've adapted or learned to operate in the oppressive regime of right-handed people. So like myself personally, I write left-handed, but I play guitar right-handed. I use right-handed scissors. I use right-handed stick shift. I use my computer mouse right-handed, that kind of thing. I will eat, though, with my left hand. I believe Leon Filger plays guitar with his left hand as well.
Okay, so what the fuck was I saying? Yeah, I write left-handed. I play guitar left-handed. I play ukulele left-handed. I bat left-handed. When I'm playing golf, I drive left-handed but putt right-handed. I wipe my ass with my left hand. Masturbate exclusively with my left hand, not even attracted to my right hand. When I'm playing the drums, I choose to lead with my left hand, and so I'm a lot more comfortable with the snare drum being on my right side than on my left, which fucks up every drum kit I've ever used and pisses off the right-handed drummers. There's not really anything I do ambidextrously, like my right hand is pretty useless. I feed myself with my left hand, although I can switch fork and knife back and forth between my left and my right hands. But I also have dysgraphia, so my writing with my left hand is just as messy as it would be if I tried to write with my right hand.
I've got dysgraphia too. I wonder if that's a thing that's commonly found in left-handed people.
You know what, like I'm willing to bet it is, because I know a couple of other lefties who've got really atrocious writing, and while they don't have like the official diagnosis of dysgraphia, I think like you can kind of spot it a mile away. Like in my case, my dysgraphia symptoms are that I can see letters and words in my mind's eye, but when I try to put the pen to paper, they evaporate, and so I find that I'm not able to like start sentences properly or start words properly, and so typing is a lot easier for me. So you can imagine, like in high school, I could never take notes because anytime I tried to write quickly, I would just form this sort of chicken scratch shorthand that I couldn't read later on anyway, so there was no point. And it wasn't until I went on to post-secondary education that the Disability Services Office gave me a laptop and I was able to start typing in class and then was finally able to use notes and be successful in my studies.
I thought the bad writing came from like a legacy of nuns hitting people with rulers when they wrote with their left hand.
When I was in grade 3, Sister Marguerite at the Catholic school I went to did wrap my knuckles with a ruler when I tried to use my left hand. And then eventually she just stopped giving a shit because there were other people who were misbehaving and needed to be dealt with. And I just kept writing with my left hand. But then into grade 4, they sent me to a child psychologist because apparently that falls under the realm of dysgraphia. And they tried to figure out what was wrong with me. But the dysgraphia diagnosis didn't stick until grade 12.
Same here. I didn't get a diagnosis until grade 12 either. We're like twinsies.
Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe you're just stealing my life story. Did you take my autobiography and just say it's you? Is that what you do?
No, I think like we've been friends for so long because we do have so many things in common, and we do have similar life stories with, you know, different parenting methods and how we were brought up in various households. And I think that's why we've remained such good friends thus far. We have shared trauma, we have shared experiences. That's why I like you.
Yes.
I think we've established that you two like share the same soul in two different bodies.
Oh, we're definitely hetero life mates. Like
yes.
I've in fact, like anytime I start a new relationship now, I'm like, you have to understand that Richard Bigley comes as a package with me, and you have to like him. You don't have to tolerate him. I need more than tolerance. You have to actually like him. And so fortunately, my most recent partner got to dine over some sushi with Richard Bigley not too long ago, and she quite likes him. So everything is good.
That's sweet.
We went to high school together.
You did go to high school together. That's right. Everyone knows everyone.
What causes left-handedness? And to be quite honest, we don't actually know for sure. I guess basically all the people who are way smarter than me, their best guess is that it's like a combination of both genetics, biochemistry, and environment. So there's some evidence that suggests the preference of hand actually happens in your developing years. A study done by Eliza Nelson, Julie Campbell, and George Mitchell, they observed hand preference in 97% of 18 to 24-month-old children. However, left-handedness occurred more often in younger children. But typically by the time the kid was 2 years old, the majority of children came out right-handed.
Yeah, so I read part of that study, and they had said like 39% of infants were left-handed. But then, like you said, by the time they got to 18 to 24 months, it was like 97% of toddlers demonstrated their hand preference.
Mm-hmm. It's also kind of neat because we've also known like how the brain assigns different tasks to different sides of the brain. And like we've known this since like 1836. So like for like almost 200 years, we've known this. People who had their the right-hand side of their brain damaged by something like stroke or cancer or injury were more likely to stop speaking, but those suffering the same kind of traumas on the left side of their brain were more likely to lose motor function, specifically on the right-hand side of the body. So like we know that the brain does that dividing of task things, lefts and right. We aren't like the only species that have brains where one side specializes in one task and the other side of the brain specializes in other tasks. The Dana Foundation found that 90% of parrots were left-footed, and monkeys express fear more on the left side of their faces than they do on the right-hand side of their faces. And even fish have a preference of a side that they will turn if they encounter a barrier in the water. And I mean, that kind of makes sense in a way, because like if you're schooling as a fish and you encounter a barrier and you're being chased by a predator, you want to follow all the fish if they move to the right, you know, because if you're the fish that turns to the left, well, guess what? You lose a school and then you get eaten. And that would really suck if you were a fish. So there are some evolutionary advantages to having, you know, a left or a right hand preference.
Whales are one of the ultimate examples of an animal that's evolved strategies to maximize taking advantage of things in their environment. And their ability to feed and take in 130% of their body weight in one gulp is absolutely outstanding. My name's Ari Friedlander. My colleagues and I have done a study on blue whales where we found some amazing new insights into the way that they feed on prey.
That was gorgeous.
The major findings from this study are that at the population level, blue whales show a preference for feeding on their right side. But there are some behaviors where the animals actually feed with a bias towards their left side, which is one of the first times in nature we've been able to show that change from a right to left-handed bias. When we talk about lateralization, what we're referring to is the use of one side of the body for greater than 50% of your behaviors. In invertebrates, the amphibians, reptiles, fishes, and mammals, the way that their brain has evolved, the left hemisphere of the brain, which connects to the right eye, is the thing that controls your fine motor function and all of your repeated behaviors. Before this study, we knew a fair bit about how blue whales fed. We knew that they generally rolled on their side when they feed, and that they also perform these 360-degree rolls, but we never really had the context surrounding why and how they did these behaviors and whether or not there was a side bias in the animals.
Being left or right-handed is a trait that's not limited to humans. Male and female cats were presented with a jar containing food. Males preferred using their left paw to get food, while females mainly used their right paw. Another test counted the number of times a dog's tail wagged to the left or right. When dogs faced their owners, most wags went to the dog's right, indicating a relaxed and approachable mood. But when confronted with an unfamiliar dog, tail wags mostly went to the left, suggesting caution. Tortoises have a side preference too. When placed upside down, tests showed that tortoises consistently turned to the right to get back on their feet. In another test, chicks explored an area in front of them and sampled grains of food. It was found that chicks tended to peck grains on their left. And it's not just small animals that display this trait. Elephants also make the distinction. When tearing plants apart for eating, they twist the end of their trunk to the left. Understanding how one side dominates the other in animals could help reveal how their brains evolved to cope with different tasks.
What do you think about the prenatal hormone exposure theory? Because there have been 4 studies that indicated that individuals who've had in utero exposure to synthetic estrogen are more likely to be left-handed over a clinical control group. So, it kind of suggests that estrogen affects the developing brain, including the part that governs sexual behavior and right and left-hand dominance.
Those who did take synthetic estrogen were more likely to produce left-handed children. It's also kind of neat because I guess in the uterus, there are studies that show fetuses. Well, you should just call it feti. I think that's better. But they also have a dominant hand while in the womb, which is also a good predictor of their handedness after birth.
And also, it's stated that about 2/3 of fetuses present with the left side of the back of their head at birth. So this partly explains why prematurity results in a decrease in right-handedness. So premature babies are more likely to be left-handed.
That's surprising. I thought a lot of this left-handedness was culturally imposed. It seems a part of it is, especially when you go from that jump from 30% of infants being left-handed to almost no toddlers being left-handed. What was left over? 2% after that?
And there are other theories, like the ultrasound theory, for example. The theory suggests that ultrasound may sometimes affect the brains of unborn children, causing higher rates of left-handedness in children whose mothers received ultrasounds during pregnancy. Research on the topic suggests there may exist a weak association between ultrasound screening and the development of the fetus and mother during pregnancy and left-handedness.
So wait, ultrasounds affect left-handedness possibly. How does that work? Is it just some of the chemicals used or the effects? That's so weird.
Well, it only produced a weak association between ultrasound screening, like the sonography used to check on the healthy development of the fetus and the left-handedness. So it's not like there was a profound linkage between the two. It's a theory that I'm willing to discount because I don't think it's statistically significant.
Yeah, if you do only 1 or 2 studies, there's just the one or two studies with very small sample sizes, then one child coming out left-handed afterwards skews those results. And so, I mean, statistically speaking, I'm not sure that you can really say, well, it's because of ultrasounds,
It could be that like unrelated variable as well. Like instead of ultrasounds being the causative factor, it could be like people more likely to go to an ultrasound are also more likely to blank, and that blank is really the factor that causes the increase in left-handedness, whether it's, I don't know, prenatal vitamins or that special pregnancy breathing, I don't know, but it could be something related.
Well, yes, Lamaze causes
left-handedness.
Tell your friends.
They both start with L, so there's a link there to begin with. So, yeah.
True. Dropping those truth bombs.
The other thing is there seems to be a genetic factor. So, two left-handed parents seem to have a 25% chance of having a left-handed child themselves, compared to the rest of population being 10%. So,
I'm disappointed by this number because my child's mother and I are both left-handed, and our son is now coming out right-handed, and we're disappointed.
You're of the 75% then who are
bullshit.
Two left-handed or have two left-handed parents who ended up having a right-handed child, because maybe there is a genetic factor, maybe there isn't, maybe it's like a combination of a series of genes that some are recessive, some are dominant, and it's just super complicated. And sounds like one of those big like algebra math equations that I could never figure out,
Yeah.
So culturally, left-handed people have been shit on forever. In Islam, the right hand was used for eating and left hand was used for personal hygiene. The left hand was seen as unclean. Christianity preferred God's right hand, where Jesus would sit, over God's judgmental left hand, where Gabriel is to sit. God would even separate the sheep and the goats, sheep on the right, goats on the left. In the country of Ghana, pointing and gesturing or giving or receiving items with the left hand is considered taboo and rude. I guess Filger kind of filled us in about his school experiences.
Yeah, and here's an interesting bit here. So in French, the word gauche means both left and awkward or clumsy, while droite, which is the word for right, means both right and straight, as well as law. So I'm like, even the fucking French with their root words are slamming us.
I've been
using gauche ever since I heard it in It's Always Sunny episode, and I never even made that connection.
Gauche droite, gauche droite, gauche droite, gauche, gauche droite,
droite,
gauche.
It's such an arbitrary thing for like these ancient religions to focus on. The fact that your left hand was the shit wiping hand made life harder for a lot of people that just happened to hit some genetic lottery where genes made their left hand more dominant than their right. Like, it just seems like some jackpot with a shitty prize,
I mean, maybe going back to kind of like evolutionary time, like way back kind of before massive organized religion, maybe there was that evolutionary advantage. Maybe the tribe, would create a series of tools intended for people to use the right hand, and then you hand it over to the 10% who are left-handed, and they're clumsy as shit. They can't aim worth a damn. They can't kill that antelope properly, whatever the case may be. So maybe there was that whole, because at that point you wouldn't understand kind of that this is just like a normal thing that happens to 10% of the population,
Yeah, and it's interesting that there are so many, like, some strong, some weak correlations with other factors, like intelligence. I know because there are studies on either side suggesting that by 1.5, or 2 IQ points, lefties are smarter than righties, or on other studies that righties are smarter than lefties. But in things like music, because left-handers' brains are structured differently, there are a lot more people who are gifted in music and math. So if you look at like professional orchestras, you'd find a significantly greater proportion of talented left-handers, even among those who played instruments that seem designed for right-handers, such as violins.
Well, and like, I don't know, there's also on kind of the intelligence thing, like a lot of cultures would try to force left-handed children into right-handedness. There was actually a December 2011 paper by Howard Kushner, which basically stated that children who wouldn't switch to their right hand were often seen as having defiant personality disorder. A child's left hand would be restrained, and you'd be required to accomplish tasks with your right hand. And I guess the paper actually suggested that there was a link between stuttering and being forced to relearn your dominant hand. So that is to transition from being dominant left to dominant right.
Well, and there's a lot of correlated health stuff. Like left-handed people are much more likely to have several specific physical and mental disorders and health problems. Lower birth weight and complications at birth are positively correlated with left-handedness. A variety of neuropsychiatric and developmental disorders like autism spectrum disorders, depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, and alcoholism have been associated with left and mixed-handedness. A 2012 study showed that nearly 40% of children with cerebral palsy were left-handed, while another study demonstrated that left-handedness was associated with a whopping 62% increased risk of Parkinson's disease.
So, like, what the fuck's happening there? Like, why are so many of these things connected with the genes that expressed left-handedness? Like, why is that correlated?
Well, it's the thing is it's like part of its environment, part of its chemical, part of its genetics, part of its, like there's just this like amazing, I don't know, like complicated, intricate formula that says da-da-da-da-da-da, boom, you're left-handed, and 10% of people happen to hit that lottery that gets that,
Yeah.
Environmental factors can switch genes on and off real easy.
Well, I mean, I've got in grade 1, like I had a teacher who saw my poor handwriting and saw that I was left-handed and basically treated me like shit. She'd call me a daydreamer, and she would basically like question any sort of academic success that I might actually have. She tried many times to force me to write with my right hand. And of course, because I'm got dysgraphia and left-handed, telling me to write with my not dominant hand would produce even worse results for, the clarity of my handwriting. And she would not have been the last teacher to suggest that I write with my right hand. Like even in grade 4 or even in high school in the early 2000s, teachers would tell, hey, how about you try to use your right hand? As though I couldn't fucking figure it out myself that my handwriting is shit. And, as though I would never have tried that before,
Oh, the other hand. Well, fuck, I've never thought of that
fuck,
before.
Why didn't I think of that, And yeah, basically it wasn't until grade 12 when I would finally be diagnosed with dysgraphia, which is a learning disability that actually acknowledged my shitty handwriting as a legitimate disability. Of course, when I entered the workforce, many people were critical of me for having this disability, but that's another story. And in today's world with where everything's computerized or on your cell phone, it really doesn't matter anymore,
In his training, Leonardo learned to be scrupulously accurate. He recorded the subtle left-right differences in the human form. Within the body, there are more obvious left-right differences. Some of them are related to left-handedness. 4 centuries after Leonardo, that difference was recorded again, this time in The Age of Bronze by Auguste Rodin. Its asymmetry led to a letter in the learned journal Nature.
Somebody wrote in and said, there's something rather strange about this statue. I noticed that the testicles are somewhat unusual. Now, it's been well known, and every anatomy textbook points out that the way the testicles are arranged in most people is that the right testicle is the higher one. And yet somebody wrote in saying that I noticed that the left testicle is the higher one. How could Rodin have done this? And then there was a series of marvelous letters, the kind that everybody's familiar with in the Times, discussing this. And some people simply said, oh, Rodin simply made a mistake. And other people simply said, well, he was looking at the mirror at the time he did it, so he got it backwards. But in fact, it turns out there's another possibility. A group in China some years ago did a study on a large group of people. And what they found was that in most people, the right testicle is the higher one and is the heavier one. But it turns out that when you look at left-handers, that although the most common arrangement in them is to have the right testicle be the higher one and the bigger one, that there's a very significant minority of left-handers who have an unusual pattern. So either the left testicle is higher or the left testicle is bigger, and that a fair number of them deviate from this standard pattern. But what could this have to do with Rodin? Well, there's a lot of evidence that Rodin probably had severe childhood dyslexia. He had terrible trouble in school. And his father, who was a very sensible man, finally said to him, you're making a mistake going through the conventional system, and sent him to art school, which obviously turned out very well. So this raises the possibility that Rodin himself was a childhood dyslexic, in which case he may well have been a non-right-hander, and he may well have had an unusual pattern of testes, and it may be that that's what he was reproducing in that statue.
Many tools around the house are designed for like right-handed people, which makes using them difficult, uncomfortable, or even dangerous. So there's scissors, computer mice, musical instruments, sports equipment. Actually, what's interesting is on the topic of sports, people refer to left-handed people as southpaws because of baseball diamonds being designed so that the batter is always facing east. So, in the afternoon and evening sun, it's not in their eyes if you're the batter. So if you're the left-handed pitcher, your throwing arm would actually be on the south side of the diamond. So that's why the phrase southpaws is used to describe people who are left-handed.
Yeah, and talking about baseball, because there are fewer left-handed pitchers than right-handed pitchers, left-handed batters have more opportunities to face right-handed pitchers than their right-handed counterparts have against left-handed pitchers. And 14 of the top 20 career batting averages in Major League Baseball history have been posted by left-handed batters. So left-handed batters have a slightly shorter run from the batter's box to the first base than right-handers, and this gives the left-handers a slight advantage in beating throws to first base on infield ground balls.
My favorite pitcher baseball is left-handed. His name's Waluigi, and he was always left-handed when you played him in video games. Yeah. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Waluigi's left-handed.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So when you're left-handed, it sucks because, when you have to write left to right, it smears your ink. Pens on chains at the banks are also on the wrong side for you to write with. So you're like dragging a chain across whatever they want you to sign, or you're like trying to push the document closer so that you can reach because, banks don't want you taking their pens, those capitalist bastards. There was a 2014 Harvard study where Joshua Goodman had concluded that left-handed people actually earn 10 to 12% less over the course of their lives than right-handed people. Study also showed that while left-handed people are overrepresented in areas of higher cognitive skills, they're also overrepresented in the areas of lower cognitive skills and disabilities. So think like a bell curve, but it's flipped upside down. And it's now a bathtub and not a bell. So on the extreme ends of this graph, you have an overrepresentation of left-handed people over the general population. So lower people, or I guess people with lower cognitive skills, are often left-handed, and people with higher cognitive skills are often left-handed. And then there's that middle where left-handed people really aren't as represented compared to other population.
It's surprising they make, you said 10% less? That's a significant amount of money over a lifetime.
There's also a gender factor. So according to a meta-analysis of 144 studies totaling 1,787,629 participants, the best estimate for the male to female odds ratio was 1.23, indicating that 23% more men are left-handed, 11% of men and 9% of women would be approximately 10% overall at a 1.22 male to female odds ratio. So more men are left-handed than women.
Is that genetic, or was that more men are allowed to remain left-handed while a lot of women are pressured into being right-handed?
Who knows? But there's been also a number of studies examining the relationship between handedness and sexual orientation, and they've reported that a disproportionate minority of homosexual people exhibit left-handedness, though the findings are mixed.
It's just interesting how, you kind of have these loose factors that you can kind of do, but then there's also studies that show the complete opposite. I don't know. Like I said, with the performance or I guess cognitive skills portion of that, it contributes to, I guess, stereotypes of left-handed people being super smart. but it also contributes to the stereotype of left-handed people being unintelligent. So being left-handed, you have both stereotypes of super smart and not super smart, you know. I guess there was also some discussion about how left-handed people handle mathematics. There's been some studies on that, but there hasn't really been anything conclusive to suggest left-handed people have any sort of advantage or disadvantage over the normal population in mathematics. So
yeah, it's interesting that in Mensa, there's actually like an entire left-handed caucus. That's a pretty big movement within the Mensa organization. So I think the results are skewed because left-handed people are more likely to try out for Mensa, to take the Mensa qualifying exams. At least that was what was impressed upon me when I was 11 and first joined Mensa, is that they sent me to the child psychologist because I was left-handed and dysgraphic, and the psychologist decided, hey, he's pretty smart, let's give him an IQ test, and then they sent me to Mensa where there's a lot of other left-handers.
Of course, the thing that everybody kind of tuned in to listen for was really just kind of a list of like left-handed people. So as far as left-handed people go, we got, in terms of real people, we have Bill Gates, Tesla, Nikola Tesla, not the car. We have Goosebumps author R.L. Stine, Leonardo da Vinci, Van Gogh, Rembrandt, Jon Stewart, Tina Fey, Jerry Seinfeld, Rick Moranis, Will Ferrell, Mark Hamill, David Bowie, Pink, President Clinton, President Obama, and President Bush. The first one, not the second one. Link from Zelda, Ann Perkins from Parks and Recreation, Bruno from like Sacha Baron Cohen, Bobby Hill, Doug Funny. Now, if you don't know who Doug Funny is, you are too young to listen to this podcast. Patrick Starr. SpongeBob is also left-handed, as is Bart Simpson, Ned Flanders, Mr. Burns, and yeah.
Listen, Flanders, do you still have that store?
For 2 more days. It becomes Libertarian Party headquarters. I hope they have better luck than I did.
Flanders, you open that store tomorrow.
Oh, Homer, there's no point.
I said do it! Hello, Jerry. Homer Simpson. Remember last month when I paid back that loan? Well, now I need you to do a favor for me.
A left-handed corkscrew? Oh, baby.
Kiss me, I'm left-handed? Oh, that's a classic. What?
Homer Simpson's on the phone.
Tell him I went out.
He needs you to help Ned Flanders.
Ned Flanders is in trouble?
Smithers, I'm licked. You open this can.
Okay, but you soften it up for me, sir.
Hold it, Smithers. I'll open the can.
But, sir, how?
To the mall. I'll explain on the way.
Hurry, Nettie, hurry. Oh, golly, it's a miracle.
Come on, you lefties. Oh, what did I tell you?
Homer?
It's all here, and it's all backwards. That's right.
The worm has turned, is it not, my tin-plated friend? Look at you, you who were once so proud. Feel the wrath of the left hand of Burns.
My life begins today.
Wow, what an icebreaker.
Left-handed ledges. Now I can ride all the way to the edge.
Left-handed nunchucks.
That is, that's my left-handed episode. If you have, I guess, hate mail to send me, just send it to richard@ovpod.ca. Oh,
what?
Carry on.
Sacha Baron Cohen? Is Sacha Baron Cohen right-handed?
I'm not sure if Sasha is, but Bruno was.
Because that's impressive if he's right-handed and he played a left-handed person like competently.
Also, I don't think I'm going to be able to call Rick Moranis his name anymore. I think Rick Moranis is way better.
Rick Moranis, whatever. Ranus, whatever.
Pretty sure it's Rick Moranis. Also, it does appear that Sacha Baron Cohen is left-handed because Borat is also left-handed.
Well, there we go.
He's shown pointing a .50 caliber gun at someone with his left hand.
Now, I heard, and this could be like nonsense from high school, but I heard that also during like rapier fights in like medieval times / Renaissance times, since most people were trained right-handed, if they came upon somebody who was trained left-handed, they basically were screwed because they had no idea how to counter it because it was so rare.
A strange breed of swordsmen once fought the English here. It's said they always won because many were left-handed. One advantage this family, the Kerrs, had was that their castles were suited for defense by both right and left-handers. Some stairs spiraled, as usual, to the right. The right-handed Kerrs were posted here. They could hide behind the central pillar and then use their free left hand for support. Right-handed attackers had no such advantages. So the attacker was beaten off. Other stairs spiraled to the left. Here were the left-handed Kerrs, with all the advantages, even with a left-handed attacker. So either way, the Kerrs won.
You know what else is a fucking bitch when you're left-handed? Is shooting. Because all the goddamn rifles, like biathlon rifles, hunting rifles, whatever, they've got the bolt on the right side. So to reload, you've got to reach your left hand over top of the barrel to get to the bolt on the right side, crack it open, put in a new shell, crack it shut, then move your hand back to the other side onto the trigger. It's just a fucking pain in the ass. That's why we're shitty hunters.
I adapted. I can shoot that way. I'm fine with that.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Like, I wonder if this is a remnant of something we needed, like, in our ancient history. Like, I know there's certain species of bats that are better at hunting certain species of moths, because most bats, when they approach these moths, veer one way, and they miss the moth when the moth, like, dodges. But a few species of bats know how the moth moves and will always move to that side and get the moth. I wonder if something in our history, like something we were hunting or something we were doing, required us to react from the right side more often to have more success.
So it's like, if you've got a left-handed dominant bat species and you've got a left-hand dominant moth species, it might make it more suitable because they're both, thinking left-handedness,
Yeah, and as handedness is a highly heritable trait associated with various medical conditions, and because many of these conditions could have presented a Darwinian fitness challenge in ancestral populations, this indicates left-handedness may have previously been rarer than it is currently due to natural selection. However, on average, left-handers have been found to have an advantage in fighting and competitive interactive sports, which could have increased their reproductive success in ancestral populations.
Fascinating. So
and
we
I also
get it
wanted
on
to
as
say,
well, right?
Yeah, International Left-Handers Day. This is important. So the International Left-Handers Day is held every year annually on August 13th. It was founded by the Left-Handers Club in 1992, with the club itself having been formed in 1990. International Left-Handers Day is, according to the club, an annual event when left-handers everywhere can celebrate their left-handedness and increase public awareness of the advantages and disadvantages of being left-handed. It celebrates their uniqueness and differences, who are from 7 to 10% of the world's population. Thousands of left-handed people in today's society have to adapt to use right-handed tools and objects. Again, according to the club, in the UK alone, there were over 20 regional events to mark the day in 2001, including left v right sports matches, a left-handed tea party, pubs using left-handed corkscrews, where patrons drank and played pub video games with their left hand only, and a nationwide lefty zone where left-handers' creativity, adaptability, and sporting prowess were celebrated, whilst right-handers were encouraged to try out everyday left-handed objects to see just how fucking awkward it can feel using the wrong goddamn hand. Coffee mugs are just the fucking shits for left-handers, because take any coffee mug that's sitting in front of you right now that's got a logo on one side and not on the other, and if you pick it up with your left hand, the logo is facing you, not the person you're wanting to show the mug to. I've got like 7 different mugs on my fucking table right now, and every single one of them are right-handed.
See, that's where they're losing that 10% of income. Their marketing isn't working. It's the logo's facing them.
On the other hand, if you also want to stick it to the lefties and are right-handed, go on offpod.ca/merch, buy one of our mugs, which are indeed right-handed. It's the only way they print them, sorry.
They don't print them the other way at all?
I mean, maybe they do, but I'd have to, like, I don't know, talk to them or something. It sounds like a lot for just 10%.
Probably extra fucking money, too.
Well, so, and look, like, if you really want to support left-handed people, like, if you really, truly give a fuck about people like me and Richard Bigley, for as little as $1 a month, you can support our Patreon. For $6.66 a month, you can join one of our fan clubs. That's me or Richard. We're both left-handed. $6.66 a month gets you all of our episodes out about a week early. You get a cool little loot package that we'll send you in the mail, and you get to declare publicly your support for the most misunderstood group of people in the world, left-handers.
Yeah, it's the real world leftorium.
The leftorium, yeah.
Ed would be proud. And you get a complimentary left card. You can use it to take command or speak for left people or left-handed people, and it's quite powerful.
I'll even send you some condoms with cheeky slogans on them.
Like left is best.
Left is best.
So for Occultae Veritatis, I am Richard Bigley, and recording remotely with me today I have
Leon Filger,
Ood Gallifrey,
the soundboard demon,
and Scott from whatever you want.
Have a good night.
Cheers.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Alrighty, boys, girls, those beyond the binary, our very own Richard Bigley with his Yankavonian type parody of another song, making it a bit more lefty. Enjoy and see you in the after show.
Left-handed Bigley picks up the pen, writes on the pad over a pint of 016. His writing is smeared, life of a lefty. Struggle to open a can of cat food, fucking can opener. Who is this for? All the lefty people. Where do they all come from? All the lefty people. Where do they all belong? Leon Filger, writing a lefty song but won't go too far. A right-handed guitar, look at him strumming, restringing the strings upside down to play along. This pickguard is wrong, all the lefty people. Where do they all come from? All the lefty people, where do they all belong? All the left-hand people, all the left-hand people. Richard Bigley meets a new person, a friendly gesture shakes your hand. Your left hand, Leon Filger, signing alone with the pen to the desk, it was tied. On the wrong side, all the lefty people. Where do they all come from? All the lefty people. Where do they all belong?
Hello, patrons. Welcome to the after show. This is an update on our Space Telescopes episode, primarily on the James Webb Space Telescope. The James Webb Telescope has made its long journey to the other side, opposite where the Earth is, on the other side of the Sun, to the heliocentric Lagrange point. Its instruments have cooled to the temperature they need to be at, which is damn near absolute zero, and scientists and researchers that are working with the James Webb Space Telescope have now begun the process of testing all the instruments. Now, according to NASA's blog, it's due to go into full commission during this summer, when it's going to start to take pictures full time, but even now in these initial stages of testing, we are getting pictures of things that the James Webb Space Telescope is going to take deeper pictures of in the future. But even in these initial stages of testing, we've gotten some really clear pictures of the Large Magellanic Cloud. You can already see the results that the James Webb Space Telescope has bore. There's a comparison of the picture they took of this cloud compared to a picture that NASA had taken with an infrared observatory, and the one that was taken by James Webb is far more clear. So I'm excited to see what it captures when it goes into full commission in the summer, but as of now, they're full into the testing stages, making sure that all their instruments work correctly.
Excited for this, myself included. The successor to the Hubble telescope, just about ready now to produce images of the universe like we have never seen before.
Yes, so awesome. Amanda Hawley joins us now with a look at some of the first test images the James Webb Telescope took and when it will be fully commissioned. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, this is very exciting. A long time coming. Webb launched into space almost 5 months ago, and it is now in its final phase of testing. The first few test images are really crisp. Take a look at this comparison of images from the retired Spitzer telescope and a test image of the Webb telescope of the same small galaxy. It's easy to see how much clearer the images are going to be. Now, Webb has a significantly larger primary mirror and improved detectors, which will enable many new discoveries in the astronomy world. Now, the performance of the telescope has exceeded the team's most optimistic predictions, which is really encouraging. Calibration is expected to be fully finished in just 2 months. After that, it will begin to look into parts of the universe that we've never seen before and hopefully get some really cool images like that one.
I mean, the new ones look like fake.
Yeah.
They're so good that they look like they could not have actually been taken.
I mean, you know, we get really crisp images from the Hubble telescope, and this is going to be completely different.
I can't wait when it's all said and done to start getting these on a regular basis like this. Thank you so much, Amanda.
When it goes into full commission this summer, I'll be providing updates on the things it captures. But already it's looking like it's going to revolutionize what Hubble had already revolutionized. That's it, just a little update this week. Tune in next week when we explore a brief, over 2-hour history of the human race. See you then.